There's a lot of different stories out there. I don't think it was a smokescreen. My takeaway was Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac and got voted out. That was always kind of my feeling. But, who knows? What do you believe happened, the shift from Mac to Trey Lance?
Well, I just think the gap closed on where Mac's biggest advantage was, which was the part of the game that happens above the neck. Really, like if you talk to enough teams about this, what they'll tell you is he was so advanced. He operated so fast, and I'm not talking about foot speed, just the way he processed the game was so fast that you could see him overcoming his physical limitations. And, the Niners were pitting him against another guy and two other guys really that didn't have those physical limitations. And I think the Niners learned about Trey Lance what a lot of other teams learned about Trey Lance. His football IQ is off the charts. His character is really good. He just needs to play more. That's really it, and he only played 17 games at the collegiate level. There are issues there with the fact that you didn't see him playing from behind very much at North Dakota State. I think you'd argue the gap between North Dakota State and their competition is larger than the gap between Alabama and their competition. And so there were a lot of critical situations that you didn't see Trey Lance in. So he is a little bit more of a pure projection. But I think the difference for the Niners was the one area where Mac Jones held a lead over the other two guys. I mean, really over the course of the month between the trade and the draft, Trey Lance was able to close that gap to the point where the Niners felt like they couldn't pass up on the upside that Lance brought to the table.
Before we get into the Aaron Rodgers stuff, I'm not a big believer in draft grades. It's consumable. I get it. It's fun. I did think Miami, just in terms of first 4 or 5 guys taken, I thought, boy, that is a good draft. It's funny. When I watched Miami's draft, my takeaway is the Jets are a fourth-place team, is that Buffalo's better. New England's got all the opt-ins, and I thought Miami, which has great defense and special teams, went offense. I guess if I said best draft weekend, is there anybody for you that stands out?
It's funny you mention the Jets. I think the Jets did really well. And let's move the quarterback aside because it's unpredictable what will happen with the quarterbacks. But I really think if you look here, Colin, there's almost like a self-awareness here of how they screwed Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? Like over the last 3 years, a big reason why Sam Darnold didn't reach his potential was because of what was around him. And I don't know if Sam Darnold's ever going to make it as a franchise quarterback, but I think there's still a lot of unknown there because the situation around him was so broken. So what does Joe Douglas do? He hires, a head coach who's going to put in the most quarterback-friendly system in football. And if you look at their first 4 picks, go right on down the line, high-character guys. Beyond the quarterback, you've got an offensive guard in Vera Tucker that's going to play next to Mekhi Becton. So now you've got 2 foundation pieces on the offensive line. You give him a slot receiver in Elijah Moore, who's going to create easy completions. And then you give him a back in Michael Carter who can catch the ball out of the backfield. And so, I think it's hard to grade things a couple of days after the draft. But I think just looking as far as value goes, you look at where they got Vera Tucker. I thought that was a good spot to get him. A lot of teams viewed Elijah Moore as a first-round pick. They got him at the top of the second round. And I don't think very many people at all expected Michael Carter to be there in the 4th round. They got him. And what I really like about it, again, is there's an acknowledgement that they need to do more around the young quarterback to really figure out who that young quarterback is. And so I think now they're giving Zach Wilson a much, much better chance to succeed in New York than they ever gave Sam Darnold.
All right, you talked to Brian Gutekunst yesterday, the GM of the Packers. I had said earlier in the show today, listen, if Jordan Love can play, this would make this all much easier to digest. But again, we've had more UFO sightings than Jordan Love sightings in the last couple of weeks because COVID, no media is around practice, so I have no idea. So take us to your conversation as much as you can tell us about the GM of the Packers yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his feet planted in the ground on this one. And I think it's an important detail to remember. He was with the organization in 2008 when all this was going on with Brett Favre. And so, I brought up to him the parallels there. I mean, Favre was mad, if you remember at the time, Colin, because they hadn't been aggressive enough around him. And really the flashpoint was not getting Randy Moss the year that Randy Moss went to New England. Then you look at the general manager, the relationship between the general manager and the quarterback. There was a coaching change involved. It was to Mike McCarthy with Favre. It was to Matt LaFleur with Rodgers. So there are a lot of parallels there. But when I asked Gutekunst about that and how his experience there might serve him now, basically said that it was different because the organization in 2008 made a decision they were going with Aaron Rodgers. And he told me point blank, we're not making that sort of decision right now, and we won't be making that sort of decision for the foreseeable future. And if you read between the lines, Colin, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And this isn't coming from Gutekunst. This is coming from other people who I think would know. I don't think they think Jordan Love's ready. And I think they feel like they've got a championship team right now, a team that obviously has been in the championship round the last 2 years. And I don't think it would serve that team particularly well to put Jordan Love on the field right now. And so I think as much as anything else, this is, again, the belief that they really do think that Aaron Rodgers has a few good years left at the level he played at last year. But beyond just that, I don't think that they feel like they've got the, I would say, answer for right now on the roster. I'm not sure if they feel like there's any doubt long term on him, but as far as the answer for right now, I don't think Jordan Love is it.
All right, listen, Ryan Pace, I've been critical of him. He felt like in the last year he's on the hot seat, but I do think it takes some guts to go up and get Justin Fields, who I think is everything Andy Dalton is not. You know, big arm, athletic, young, super inexpensive now. Kind of take me through that move by the Bears from what you can tell happened.
Well, really, Matt Nagy's had his eye on the guy for over a year. He's got a really close relationship with Ryan Day. The two played against each other as quarterbacks in the Atlantic 10 over 20 years ago. They've known each other since. And Day really put Nagy on to Justin Fields back in March to the point where, and Nagy told me this late last night, he would make a point of watching Ohio State's games on Saturdays when they were on the road from the team hotel because he was really just fascinated in Fields as a prospect. Now, I think there was a limit to how far they were willing to go to get him. But once he got past that little rung of, where he expects some quarterback movement, the Lions potentially trading down from 7 didn't happen. The Panthers and Broncos didn't take quarterbacks in 8 and 9. That was the point where they needed to get aggressive. And so I know the Cowboys weren't willing to move too far down. They didn't want to go beyond what was the perceived cliff in the mid-teens. So they wind up moving back 2 spots. And, then, of course, the Bears are able to find a trade partner in the Giants. And I can tell you there's a belief that the upside here with Justin Fields is very, very high.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how quickly they get him on the field, Colin, but I think it's important to remember that Matt Nagy was in Kansas City in 2017, part of the process in scouting Patrick Mahomes, and also part of developing Patrick Mahomes that rookie year when he was redshirted. So I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to be redshirted, but I do believe him that they feel like what's best for Fields is to wait until he's truly ready to put him on the field. And maybe that happens in September, maybe it happens in December, maybe it happens in 2022. But I really feel like they think, because of the way that Nagy handled the development of Mahomes back in 2017, that if they can serve this kid right, just in terms of his development, there could be something really special there.
Albert Breer, Monday Morning Quarterback. Good seeing you again, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.